One of the most obvious risks in getting into the digital age, to name it this way, really is that a country, a government, or users are getting dependent from the big technical, from the big tech companies, let me name this way, because they are, in a way, they are monopolists. They are ruling on the global scale these services. And so when I step into this world of digitalizations, I am in a way, on the one hand, dependent on these services, and I have to buy them. I have to negotiate with these companies under which conditions I can receive a certain infrastructure, how I can use their services. In a certain way, it's a way into a total dependency. And to become a little bit more independent and to find my own way in the world of digital, in the world of, as in a digitalized world, sorry for this, I have to try to find my own way. And there, for example, I should try to, yes, to establish own qualification sectors in universities, segments, to train my own IT specialists. That's the one thing. And the other thing really is I should use open source solutions. I should not go the most comfortable way and just buy in services from the well-known global players, but I should try to see what the open source community can offer to me and to find my own way. This is, I think, a very, very important aspect, because the global players are present, they do advertising, they are smart, they are offering easy solutions, and this is very attractive on the one hand. But on the other hand, I'm not able to develop my own solution, my own maybe national way in using digital media and infrastructure. So therefore, keep an eye on open source solutions and try to find an alternative way in establishing my individual digital infrastructure for teaching and learning.
There are ways to learn with technology, which is the approach we used now in the beginning, to say technologies as a means for sustaining learning, but it's also important to learn about technologies. And here I see two main paths, sorry. One path is the one on which I don't think I will focus a lot, which is anyway connected to all the discourses on computational learning, how to learn about algorithms, why learning to code is important for the citizen of the 21st century, and so on. This is one very important path. The other very important path is the one referring to media literacy. So to know about the risks of technology, the abuses of using technologies, the addiction of using technologies. Now we have evidence that the internet addiction disorders are real disorders, are real addictions. So cyberbullying, cybersexting, all these things, it is important to know about them because these contribute to make your digital literacy. And digital literacy, we know now that it's part of our basic knowledge, like reading, writing, counting. We also have to develop digital literacy and digital.
Also the pitfalls that we have seen and studied now, especially in the Corona crisis, is that a lot of people do not have access to the kind of hardware, starting with the kind of hardware that is needed to access online or virtual learning content and activities. So this first level digital divide is more or less unproblematic in the German-speaking countries, for example, but we have still seen in studies we are about to publish in the next week, that both at university level, but also in initial FET, there are still 6, 7 to 15%, it depends on where you look at, of young learners that do not have access to a personal computer or to a sole access to a personal computer. A lot of learners have to share their computers, for example, with other learners, with their parents. So it's not very easy when both parents, for example, work at home, and we're talking about initial FET, that you still have access to the kind of technology that is needed even more in times of COVID-19 crisis. So there is still also in German-speaking countries an gap that we need to address, so that people who cannot afford the necessary hardware can participate from the potentials and benefits of new technologies in FET. This is one problem in terms of the digital divide in the first level. The second level digital divide refers more to the competences that are needed to use the hardware and software. Some software and hardware have huge affordances, so just to access the hardware, to look around the hardware and software, to use it in a way that is only relevant to accessing the learning content, but not even to learn with the content, might be huge. So the number of people that lack the competences to engage in new technologies for FET is even higher than the hardware digital divide. So we have this second level divide. And the third level divide, which is even greater, is even if you have the hardware, even if you can use it, we can see that people with higher formal educational degrees, they use it in a more beneficial way for themselves. So the profit that comes from using new technologies is even more divided than the hardware and the competences. So when we are doing studies on digital divide, all these three levels of the digital divide are very important to look at. And especially, of course, vulnerable groups don't have the kind of access to learning technologies that have huge potentials, that are very interesting, and that there are very many benefits. But as they have so many benefits, the gap might become bigger very fast, because at least 10 to 20% of our population don't have the access, the competences, or the provided profits from using the new technologies. Just very recently, there was a study published from the D21 initiative in Germany, which very specifically shows that all the three dimensions, for example, are very relevant when it comes to the digital gender gap. So gender is still a huge issue when it comes to using new technologies, and the more we use it for learning, and the more we use it for excellence, and the more we use it for getting ahead, the bigger the gap might become, because a number of people that are discriminated in society cannot or don't have the opportunities to engage in the same benefits than others.
I would prefer rather to focus on other kind of risks which are connected again to the added value. Is the other side of the coin again, because we said, for example, we cited the increased possibilities given by virtual environments or augmented environments. But here I see, for example, the risk of cognitive deskilling. If they are not used properly, as we were commenting, the risk is the skilling. For example, if I give a car mechanic glasses that tells him or her exactly how to replace a thing. I am provocative now. We don't need a human being anymore in a few years because machines will be more performing on doing that. We have to provide them the way to upskilling. Technology should be used for that. And again, here comes pedagogy. We can use this kind of approaches at the beginning, but then in a scaffolding, progressively scaffolding approach, we should remove the scaffold itself and upskill rather than deskill our learners.
In terms of the digital gap, it is very important that we start with young people, because there has been a myth around for 20 years now, starting with this problematic book from Mark Bransky that says, okay, the younger generation will be digital natives and they will learn to use digital media just by growing up because it's all around them. But empirical studies have shown in the past 20 years that this is not the case. Yes, they use it, but being a digital native doesn't make you digitally competent. That is a conclusion that was too fast to make in the past. So we see a lot of young people, they do use the cell phone very seamlessly, and they can text and they make videos and stuff like that. But when it comes to more complex tasks, like, for example, using an Excel sheet or a Word sheet, I don't know how often you use your smartphone to calculate an Excel sheet. So this is the problem. So very, very few young people, just by growing up with digital media, become competent users. So we need to focus on young people, especially young people that are discriminated by gender, by ethnicity, by language, and so on, with a special focus on young people that are at risk of unemployment. We do see in Europe, regionally and also abroad in the global south, that a lot of young people do not have a job, and they are at risk of unemployment. So this must be a core focus to look and identify young people that are at risk and put a lot of structural funds and education and new technology inputs in this transfer from school to the job.